Charles. Once again, we are back on the streets.
Exactly, right across from, right behind us, we've got J.P. Morgan's new headquarters. Some call it a monument to Jamie Dimon. It's going to be a gigantic building.
But we don't know if this is the destruction of a previous building or the construction of a new building, do we?
Some of our experts in the crowd probably can tell us, but we're at the corner of, what are we, 47th and Madison, or 48th and Madison?
Something like that.
Let's head over to the right and park when we get the light changes.
Sure.
But before we get too deeply into this, I want to congratulate the art department. Watch yourself. Trump has, I doubt it's because he saw the art picture, but
Dumbass Milley.
Yeah, and that's the way to not run afoul or more afoul of the censors. What we should refer to it as Dumas.
Dumas, right.
D-U-M-A-S. We're of course referring to the famous French author.
We should remind our viewers, Charles, that since it's Wednesday, we've sort of put closing in on a bit of a hiatus, and we've replaced it with our new segment here, which is the First Amendment Forum. And this was born out of a need. I mean, there's just so much censorship here on YouTube.
Right.
People are watching us on Rumble and not quite as many on Odyssey. Uh-oh, are we running? Man, it looks like it's not live for some reason.
What do we do?
Oh my God, that's terrible. Why is today such a disaster? Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so that's working on YouTube. Welcome, everybody who's watching us on YouTube. I hope you'll join us in just less than 30 minutes on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, where we're going to be able to speak unencumbered. And then I think we're also on rumble.com/user/CS-the-truth. People can watch on Rumble if they hate YouTube. But there's the construction or destruction, Charles.
It's amazing. So 13 years ago to the day, the very day, Lehman Brothers went under today.
Oh, wow.
And I came down a number of days before that. Bear Stearns went under. This was the Bear Stearns building.
This right here?
Yeah, and J.P. Morgan rescued Bear Stearns. Careful, Jason.
So this was the start of the 2008 financial crisis, where everybody was walking out of here with their office boxes, right?
I would argue the start of that crisis was more like April of 2008, but it was the biting of the crisis. And so Bear went under, to be rescued by Morgan. Lehman went under. And I was working at 520 Madison, and the guy, I was in an office that somebody had leased a long time ago, and their lease was up, I think, September 30th or thereabouts. And I had to get my stuff out of there. So I began, every day I'd take, a briefcase full of something, and I had a box, because I had a bunch of deal toys and stuff like that I put on my desk. And I'm in the subway heading downtown, minding my own business, and this person, let's say 10 years older than me, said, "Don't worry, everything will be okay. Your life isn't over."
Oh.
So what are you talking about? I said, "Well, I mean, you don't have to, you might be ashamed to admit that you work at Lehman." I said, no, I don't work at Lehman. "I know, you've been fired." "No, I never worked at Lehman."
We got a lake right here.
This is the perpetual employment lake. It's been like this the entire time that I've been here in New York City. They never fix this thing, actually fix it.
What do you mean, it leaks, it overflows?
Yeah, absolutely, constantly. And
so, see, that's interesting, because everybody's been saying that the flood and the subway and everything was due to climate change.
Oh, due to climate change, give me a brace.
And there was something else today.
We'll go that way and then.
Sure, that they were talking about that. I said, well, this got to be climate change. It can't be New York City's crumbling infrastructure.
I mean, if the schools were actually open, that's it. My paper's late was because of climate change. I didn't do well in the exam, climate change. Didn't do well in the SATs. Right. Well, you don't have to take those anyway. Just show up at Harvard. Did you get an acceptance letter? No, climate change. I want to be here anyway. I'm here. That's a small car.
That's a Mercedes smart car. Maybe they just stuck the Mercedes logos on there. But sorry, I interrupted your story about this dope on the subway telling you worked for Lehman Brothers.
Right, but I'm not actually a ghoulish person, but I did want to actually go to Lehman and see what it was like, and I did stand outside of it, and I stood outside of Bear Stearns watching it, and at the time, I was pushing, and I continue to push the idea that General Electric is a massive unprosecuted fraud, and there are others like it. And I was one of the very few people who said then in 2008, and as various cures were all mooted and applauded, I said, this is all temporary, this is window dressing. You're never going to fix this problem unless you address structural issues that are afflicting the global economy and the American economy. And
is this what they meant at the end of The Big Short when they said, hey, by the way, this is all starting again? And
right. I mean, it's one of the things I've learned now, this is 13 years of this stuff or more, so 14 years, I guess, of trying to point out these frauds and try to get them addressed, is the frauds are so large that a defense mechanism is to force you to try to explain the fraud in a box. You know, don't address the whole big picture. And when you go trying to do the whole big picture, people say, "Oh, that's so enormous." You know, if that were the case, somebody else would have seen this.
Well, not only that, most people, including the court, just don't even have the patience to listen to enough of the story to be able to understand the thing.
Well, it's very simple. In 1945, the amount of debt, other than government debt, on the American economy was a pittance. There just wasn't. People actually bought, some people took out mortgages, but for decades, property owners owned property with no debt. You couldn't borrow. There were no credit cards.
Didn't Reagan start deficit spending?
Up to 1945. So if you go back to when America stumbled into the role of trying to lead the global economy, Americans, by definition, didn't have the same propensity, interest in borrowing that now they all do. I mean, you see kids will enter, middle income and upper income kids will enter private university or state university with credit card debt, maybe a car loan.
They were pushing credit cards at the NYU bookstore when I went in.
So I'm saying,
a credit card.
And that was just anathema. My father and grandfather's generations, they just did not believe in borrowing. And because they watched what happened in the Depression, and there was institutional memory in the family of people who lost everything, and not simply in 29, but in earlier crises. So we had the problem in 2008, and the problem now is even worse, is that the first problem is we have way too much debt on the global economy. By one estimate is $300 trillion of debt. To put that number in perspective, we have approximately, and who knows the real number, 75 trillion of gross domestic product or economic output. So debt on the whole economy, 4 times total output. Now, total output includes government investment, which is probably not really worth par value, or investment money put in. And then you have public sector workers, and you have transfer payments, which are not necessarily things that can continue indefinitely as a nation flirts with bankruptcy or even goes through bankruptcy. So there's a huge warning sign for anybody who understands basic economics. I think we may have to cross back. So that's one thing. The second thing is that prior to December 2008, after the magic man, the president-elect, after Barack Obama made it through the various decisions that he had to, traps that he had to run between Election Day in 2008 and Inauguration Day in 2009, decisions were taken by the New York Fed and Federal Reserve System to push interest rates way down on the ground, to actually zero. And so if you got this gigantic pile of debt, let's say back then it was 2.5 times.
Would you finance it?
Well, and you were paying 5%, let's just pick a number, and suddenly your banker says, well, actually, you've got a new credit line, you don't have to pay any interest, and we'll let you take another 1.5 times your income out. You know, you're going to sit there and you're going to throw money around the way stupid Joe Biden and bang bang Barack did with the fucking stimulus plan that had shovel-ready jobs in theory. We blew less than $1 trillion there, 800 billion, on fanciful ideas that didn't work. So we've been doing this for 13 years, and in that time frame, ideas that required humans to actually get them accomplished have been replaced increasingly by ideas that do not involve humans. And at the same time, people who are dirt poor and outside the advanced economies have now are being flown, go back I guess, being flown at our expense from Afghanistan and other places to compete with workers in this country who expect to make $18 an hour thanks to Amazon now. So you have this crushing assault on the ability to earn a private sector income that's structural. You know, we've gone around the world, we said it's okay for American companies with multinational operations to shift their production and service operations outside this country so that they can save money. Instead of spending $18 an hour, maybe spending $3 an hour. Or a dollar, whatever. It's okay to do that. And we've also gone around in our educational institutions, and unlike sports, I mean, if you go to sports and you say, all right, so it's the U.S. Open, and you're going to spend $10,000 to watch Michael Moore, the documentary guy, take on Jabba the Hutt in
a tennis game.
In the U.S. Open final. I think you're going to want your money back.
Well, the other interesting thing about sports, Charles, they announced yesterday or today that even though it seems the NBA employs more than 100 people, they decided they don't have to get the vax.
Well, it's the staff that do have to get the vax, and the players don't.
But aren't they still employed?
Yeah.
I mean, that's weird. We're not going to really be able to talk about that right now because our opinions about this are disliked by YouTube, but people will be able to hear our input on that in just about 15 minutes.
But if I could just drive that
First Amendment Forum on subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. Drive the point home, Charles.
I just want to complete the thought. So in simple terms, it's not, you need to have a PhD, you need to have a Nobel Prize, you need to speak a whole bunch of, you got a pile of debt, you've got no assets. The only way you can pay the debt back is by earning money and saving some of it to pay the debt down.
But that means working, and most people don't want to do that.
Well, and so the challenge for people living in this country, you can say it's not your problem, you don't need to worry about it. The problem is that this economy, the American economy, has too much debt on it, and we need to lower that debt. And her name is not AOC, it's FOS, full of shit. Is going out there. Now they're saying
she got comped.
Yeah, but she didn't declare that, which is an illegal contribution.
Oh!
Yeah, nice try. So you do that all day long if you can get away with it. So
she thinks she's smart, but she's only half right. So, a lot of sirens today, Charles.
So instead of paying down the debt,
I think something's on fire right here.
This is Blackstone Group. This is actually Union Pacific used to be here. I just spent a lot of time in this office.
This is Blackstone.
Investment bank.
Oh,
right here.
whoa.
This is the headquarters.
Holy
You can see the sign over there where the guy's sitting down. It's right next to him.
Oh,
is the
yeah?
sign.
Oh, Blackstone or Black Rock?
Stone. Black Rock is near here too.
Totally different.
Yeah. Black Rock is over that way.
Sounds almost identical.
So at the same time, we got this gigantic debt. Who knows whether we're going to be able to keep interest rates low? And FOS and now the impatient Biden is trying to ram through a spending program of he says 3.5, it's more like 5.5. And on top of that, he wants to tax you till you bleed, basically, if you make any money. So we're in a place, we're in a
61%, they said.
We're in a horrible predicament, and the correct direction to go is there. And Biden is stumbling there, and the problem is he's not even on the sidewalk, he's in the middle of the freaking street.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the bottom of some of these things and talk about thoroughly treasonous Milley, who should be swinging from a yard arm.
Right, and we're actually approaching a day's show and also several other topics, but I think we'll hold that for the start of the First Amendment Forum on Subscribestar and Patreon. But let's just get into the Mark Milley thing for a little bit, because I just saw this prior to coming out to meet you here. that there's been some statement issued by Milley where he is not denying.
He's agreeing he did it, and the acting Secretary of Defense, I forgot the guy's name, is saying he did not authorize Milley to have these conversations. And so, I mean, the Babylon Bee, this idiot.
Yeah, going fast.
The Babylon Bee has a hilarious thing that General Milley has been riding through the streets of Shanghai screaming, "The Americans are coming, the Americans are coming."
Take it off the sidewalk. Ride it in the street.
Watch it, Jason.
You're endangering people and it's illegal. Don't ride it on the sidewalk. What are you doing still on the sidewalk?
You don't give a shit.
Yeah, you're an asshole, buddy. Maybe he doesn't speak English.
He's probably from China. He's probably been sent here to assassinate us from China.
Good, let him try it. I'll break that thing over his head.
Let's go over here. Because we may just want to end over here, but...
No. I think we still have a few blocks to go and we still have a few minutes.
Well, this is an important place right here.
Uh-huh. Okay, so we can wait here. But the thing I wanted to sort of wrap up for everybody that we will deal with at that building is that, so Mark Milley is calling the Chinese, telling them, oh, don't worry, if we're going to launch a strike, I'll give you some strategic advantage against the United States by telling you something about the attack.
Right.
I mean, this is the most brazen treason I've ever heard of.
Well, and again, we'll talk more about it in the First Amendment Forum. I think this goes back. This is not simply about the transition from Trump to Biden. I think this goes back to the transition from Obama to Trump. It goes back perhaps from the transition from Bush to way back. That there is this, and Tucker was talking about it last night. I'm sure we'll talk about it again. That there's this deep state, and that they just watch the elections. Maybe they influence the election, but they watch them, and they know that in 4 years the president can't really do all that much. So they just play along. They say, "Oh yeah, we'll help you out." So,
it's riding in the street now. The thing that I'm getting to, Charles, is that I totally agree with what you're saying, is that there seems to be a large number of highly placed U.S. government, military, and intelligence officials who have been enthralled with communism for a really long time.
Well, and they run Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, and the Council on Foreign Relations, and you name it.
Right, and I'm thinking about Comey, I'm thinking about Milley.
What about Bob Bauer's wife, Nita Dunn?
All these people.
Yeah. Sure. And we just sit here, we take it, and they're serving it up, and they're serving us poison. They're poisoning the minds of our children in school. They're poisoning the body politic, all because many of them want to have access to the large Chinese market for their businesses, especially in media, academia, etc.
It's hard to understand why. I mean, is it just to have access to the market? This guy who's dedicated his life, this is so hard to understand, because to become a general, it's not like it's Bo Bergdahl who's like giving them some information. This guy's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he somehow has the mistaken idea that if he personally disagrees with the individual that we, the people, have elected to be president, that he has the right. Why is he not removed already?
No, he should have been removed a long time. And why didn't Trump remove a lot of these people? You know, and I think we'll have to see how this plays out. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see how it plays out, but we'll have a lot to say about this coming up.
Yeah, all right, so we will be resuming in just a few minutes. I want to remind people that they can watch the show at 4:30 on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We're going to be breaking some news. If you were watching On the Trail of Son of Sam with Manny Grossman Monday night, we're going to a location that was discussed there that ties into Charles's research in an amazing way. So don't miss it. Now's a great time to become a sponsor. And if you're watching the show and you want to continue, becoming a sponsor is the best way